Welcome from the break. This is the second hour of the dialogue on Soul TV. My name is Prince Apollo. On the show this morning, we are looking at the process to re-empower the General Court Martial to try civilians, a contentious provision and a contentious part of the UPDF amendment bill, which is under scrutiny in Parliament, and we are interrogating the process, looking at the rush, the urgency, and also asking questions on who this legislation is intending or is actually going to serve. When, from what we see, the voices coming out seem not to agree that the legislation is necessary. But the people behind the law insist that we need the law. What now is at stake? Those are the questions that we are asking. And we continue to invite comments and observations. I'll be reading those comments in the next 10 minutes. And Dr. Wanzala, I still need to hear you respond to Kazoba's. I don't want to call it an assertion because he says he has credible sources and history is on his side. He thinks this is the way to solve the problem. If the state is becoming more and more militarized, the state has to react, and the state is protecting its legitimacy and its existence by empowering an institution of judiciary to have much more powers.
Now, if you look at our judicial system, we have other legislations like anti-terrorism law. If you are found in possession of, say, firearms,
sure,
and you're using them to terrorize, you can be taken to a civilian court and charged with terrorism. Okay? We have seen laws on illegal possession of arms. You can be tried in the civil courts. We have seen we have laws like the Public Order Management Act, whereby, of course, they use it to stifle freedom of assembly, but also in case you are using your freedom to interfere with other freedoms, you can
is for
be
crowd control.
Exactly, crowd control. You can be contained within that. There are so many laws. Even murder is catered for under our civil courts. Now, in the court ruling of the Supreme Court, you saw the issues they raised. One was the issue of independence, that the military is subordinate to a commander-in-chief and a CDF and others. So if you bring politicians, for instance, to be tried here, so there is a likelihood that power can be abused. And then someone can direct a court and say, keep for me that person there for a long time. You have seen how it has become very hard to get bail for politicians who are taken to the court martial. So, and then also history shows so that since the time of Dr. Kizza Besigye and FDC, PRA, People's Redemption Army, and so forth, we see that every time a case is taken to the military courts, all other provisions on human rights, on what are ignored, and therefore what stands out are the political statements of the commander-in-chief, or where you see even the courts, the games in there. The other issue the Supreme Court pointed out was the issue of qualification. You remember the Chief Justice saying that I am not a doctor and I cannot go to Mulago to go and begin operating on patients pretending to be a doctor. So the issue, if the court martial is trying to address the issues of quality of the services delivered in the court martial, I have no problem about it. But like the Council Asima said, the issue of trying civilians in the military courts was settled. But also this is a reminder to our politicians of the day. Grace Ibingira in the UPC administration introduced the law which was supporting arrest, detention without trial. He was the first victim. The Honorable Amama Mbabas came with the Public Order Management Act. When he wrote to the Electoral Commission, he was beginning consulting to go and campaign to be president. They used the same law against him. He was stopped in Jinja. So when we are making these laws, let's ensure that the laws are blind. They don't have open eyes focusing at short-termism and thinking that for you, you are immune to what is going to happen. You honorable members of parliament, the rate at which you lose the elections, every election, is almost over 70%. Why can't you do something that is better for the country, for posterity? Even when you leave parliament, you will say, I served there, but during our time, that's the accountability we need.
Sure.
Such that we avoid looking at politics as the omega and the alpha of running the country, and we stick to doing the correct thing.
Thank you. And Anthony, Dr. Wanzala now reminds us of what has been in public discourse, that there are other avenues through which this matter of civilians who maybe are found in possession of illegal arms or what, involved in subversive and illegal activities, can be tried, alternatively not in the Supreme Court. Can you really expound on that and make your case that this legislation is not necessary at this point in time?
Right. Thank you very much. To add context to that, in this country we have a law. We have enough laws, and these laws are enough to solve most of those problems, almost every offense, like he has mentioned. I, for one, I do practice at International Crimes Division,
where Jamil Mukulu
is being tried. Now, how do you justify taking Jamil Mukulu to a civil court, and you take someone who is putting on a red beret to an army court? Which one is a bigger offense? Which one would actually relate?
But he told you, Kazoba told you that even that the whole judicial system is dysfunctional. And
now
it's
that's
corrupt,
and that's what brings me to what I had said earlier. We need to accept, maybe like Kazoba said,
actually Mukulu, I think it was in the papers, had spent 5 years without coming to court. That is what was.
Maybe
perhaps that
putting it in context. Like Kazoba said, we need to differentiate. We need to be clear on where we want to be, on where we are. Military governments are run militarily. What we are having is a democratic state. It's a democracy. We understand how it came into power, but the moment we moved and even had the 1995 Constitution, we are supposed to go by that governance. We have 3 arms of government, the executive, the legislature, the judiciary. In those arms of governance, the army does not appear anywhere. The army is for the general public. You cannot say that the army has to be given a right to participate in governance. The army has its role, well stipulated, very clear in the Constitution.
Yeah, actually what he talked about, that the army is now involved in developmental.
Actually, he said in governance.
Those are peripheral.
Yes.
The army's role in the Constitution is to protect the territorial integrity of our country.
Now, if we allow that at this stage, then that means we are doing what we call militarization of governance, which is against the Constitution. That means we are shifting from what we have on paper to something else. Maybe we need to accept that. And I could have forgotten to mention that one of our focuses at the Radical Nuba is demilitarization. These are some of the things we are fighting because we believe we do not need to have militarization in this day and era. We should respect processes. We should have the law. We should believe in the law. We have so many laws. Every offense. I'll give you an example. We have offenses like aggravated robbery. Someone is found stealing, using a gun or any weapon. The sentence is there. The High Court has jurisdiction to try such a person, pass a sentence.
Talk about what he said. The civilian the civilians are militarized. The civilian population is militarized.
Now,
and that is what is meant to cure.
But bringing that again to context is, like I said, we have any offense a person commits, whether they find you with a gun, whether they find you doing something you're not supposed to be doing, there is a proper law that governs that.
Full in the military.
We have the Penal Code Act.
Like attire.
Yes, even possession of military attire. We have
they are holding parades, like the army parades.
You see, Apollo, every law, every offense, even owning, such an attire or holding. We have the Firearms Act. We have the Penal Code Act. It has provisions for all those offenses, and we believe it is enough. And the courts have enough power and jurisdiction to try those cases. There's no reason as to why you should create, an independent institution. And maybe if I can help bring this to context, like I stated earlier, the military has a separate chapter, separate provision in the Constitution, Chapter 12, Article 210. Now, the courts of judicature under Chapter 8 have specific mandate, and there is a structure of those, how the courts are, stipulated, how people should be appointed to the judiciary. We have the Judicial Service Commission, who should supervise them. That's why we have levels: Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, Constitutional Court, High Court, then the subordinate courts. Now, those courts are provided the law or the processes that are used into appointing people in those offices, the work they do, the supervision are under Article 129 of the Constitution, the Chapter 8 that creates the courts of judicature. The mistake we are making, and I'll go back to what Doctor said earlier, that which is also hinted on it, that the power Parliament has is to create a disciplinary body for the army. Like any other institution, you must have a disciplinary body
for the army.
For the army. Now, you cannot want to bring the disciplinary body for the army under the armpit of the judiciary, the three arms of the government, under the judiciary or the courts of judicature, because, like you've had, much as the Supreme Court hinted on the qualifications, even if those are the qualifications that people in
the
that,
bill is
what
now,
is their role?
The provisions in the draft bill are coming to cure that.
Yes. What is their role? You cannot still, even that bill, you cannot try or attempt to bring it or to create that disciplinary body under the armpits of Chapter 8, saying it is also a court. It's not a court. It is a disciplinary body for the and even if it's a disciplinary body, probably what they could be curing is the right to a fair hearing for the people, the serving, who have committed service offenses that are in that court. For example, if in our laws we still have a death penalty, someone is allowed to appeal up to the apex court, the Supreme Court. Now, when it comes to this disciplinary body, you do not have that kind of you do not have that kind of openness of right to say, now I'm challenging the outcome of this, I'm going to appeal up to the Supreme Court. This is a constitutional provision. So it is supposed to serve its role to discipline the members of the forces. Okay. If you've looked at some of the details, by the way, it's amazing how they live in, say, the person who has been, if you're a civilian, and you may be aided or you're being tried with an army person in that court, you're also given a rank of that person. What kind of, it's a joke. What happens when that person, when maybe he's acquitted or the trial ends, do you maintain the rank? Is it stripped of you? But the principle or the major issue is we need to avoid making the same mistakes. In 2005, the first time this act was passed, the UPDF, the act in itself, Ugandan society, our ancestors, our predecessors went to court to challenge that aspect of trial of civilians in military courts. The Constitutional Court agreed with the LS, but there was a cross appeal which was abandoned by the people, and that aspect was not handled. That section 117, G and H, and it continued. You've seen the years we spent. Of course, what happened, that's the time Besigye had come up, and the most important thing was to have him on a ballot paper. So the people who were following up that case abandoned it, and that's why we still kept that problem. Now the Supreme Court has pronounced itself, but we still have the same problem. So what we're saying, or what is clear, is the law, the UPDF Act should only focus, if you're creating a disciplinary body, you should only focus on the military. But again, we shouldn't also forget that even those serving officers, they also still have a right. They enjoy a right to a fair hearing. That's why there are circumstances where they will also be tried in
and
civil.
the right to appeal.
Yes, they should be also. They can also have their cases heard or determined in the civil court. The punishments that should be given by, the military tribunals should be, basic, because these are disciplinary aspects. Doctor was mentioning how some of them pass sentences of 90 years, 70 years. The disciplinary committees can only pass sentences like they strip you of your rank, that there are punishments they give you, but not the punishment that the high court judge should grant life imprisonment. They shouldn't go beyond. Now, the Mr. Kazova was referring to the fact that it is justified because there are civilians who bring themselves into the ambits of the military. Like I said, there are enough laws to deal with those people. We have terrorism, anti-terrorism act. We have treason cases. We've had treason cases. Someone who is found to be planning, to take over, to overthrow government, using whatever means. There's the law, and there are courts, the civil courts, civilian courts, which can handle that. So what we should avoid is, or what we need to completely, and what we're advising Parliament to completely do away with, is an aspect of thinking that civilians should be brought under the armpit of the army courts. Everything else will be okay, but that is the biggest challenge. That is why you see that's the only provision everyone is discussing. No one is discussing the other provision. The good ones to talk about the welfare of the army. There are very good, proposals there. But when you have just one rotten tomato in a whole basket, it's going to affect all the other tomatoes.
All right, I hear you. You insist that even calling it a general court martial is inappropriate. We need it's an army disciplinary
it's a disciplinary body for serving officers,
not a court,
and they should only try service offenses, not just any.
All right, I'll be reading the messages now. Let me hear from our viewers what they think about this process to re-empower the military courts to try civilians. I think that is the only, like we agree here. It's the only contentious issue about this whole bill. I don't see people actually looking at other aspects in this bill. The issue is trying civilians in the military courts. Let me hear from Comrade Rugarama. Salutations, dear brother, and good morning in particular to our Vice President, the radical new Ba Simwe. In him, just like Semakade, we pride. You see? The summary of the controversy in this UPDF amendment bill is seemingly the unanswered question that the Supreme Court answered. And this was, is it lawful for civilians to be tried in the military justice systems? And the answer was no. The other sad reality is that the speed at which this particular bill has been brought back is suspicious. The entire bill, which I have had an opportunity to read, is not bad, but it's like it is said, the devil is in the details, and hence the trial of civilians under the military court system as introduced will once again be challenged in courts of law, and it will fall on its knees. Okay, we will wait. Thank you so much, Comrade Rugarama. Andrew Rugarama is a lawyer, but also the chairman of the Pan-African movement. Why is it that most of the politicians are the ones complaining of UPDF amendment bill? Ugandan politicians lack sanity. Mr. Welhe, if the civilian court law is silent of civilians who can even stone the army man in a uniform, how do you think they now have ranks with titles, generals, etc.? Where will this country end? This is in Kaluba Henry, Magamaga, in Mayuga district.
But stoning someone is assault. It is catered for under the laws of Uganda.
Yeah, there are flaws.
The laws are there. Actually, it's one of the most common reported cases in police.
These who assault. Put on uniforms and one ranks, they call them generals.
Now, we have gazetted uniforms of the UPDF. The logo, the colors, the designs, they are well described. Me, I'm a scout. We also do parade. We wear uniforms similar to how we behave, in a similar way how military people behave, and we march. We sing like them, but we are not soldiers. I think it usually comes to the intention. Are you behaving like a soldier and maybe carrying a gun which is supposed to be in possession? That's a different matter. But simply wearing for God's sake, is Uganda the only country where people wear like that? You have seen the economic freedom party in South Africa. They dress
even
exactly.
Come to parliament with berets.
Yes, they dress exactly the way NUP people dress.
And,
how many times have you seen Ramaphosa harassing them for wearing that?
Okay.
So if I'm found with a bishop who's, you know,
it is the intention.
Gowns,
you say
yes.
The intention.
Should I be taken to Namirembe to the bishops?
And unfortunately, we don't know their intentions. Good morning, Apollo. Thanks for the show. I am sorry for the last Saturdays. I haven't commented on any topic. Okay. Last Saturday, my elder sister was okay. I wish you a wonderful show. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Let me check who. Oh, Major Tim Joel.
That's my resident.
Yeah, Nadent viewer. He missed out last Saturday and today, but he's there watching. Thank you. Good morning, Apollo. Thanks for the show. My opinion is whatever is happening surrounding the UPDF Amendment Bill is nothing but greed for power and wealth. What we need now is for religious leaders and pastors like Mami Ujingo to go and preach to especially members of the first family that greed for power and wealth are all vanity. We shall not take anything with us. Because if the bill is aimed at providing security to the people of Uganda, then why do you rush it without consulting them widely? Again, why would the government drag its feet when it comes to transferring cases from the court-martial to civilian courts as advised by the Supreme Court, but it is very fast at bringing back the bill to Parliament? Whoever has special interest in this bill should know that nothing lasts forever. This is Ntate Richard watching from the Republic of Seychelles. Thank you so much, Ntate. Seychelles, these are islands.
Indian Ocean.
Yeah, islands in the Indian Ocean. Thank you so much for watching. I am Kakeire Kalimu here in Namataba, Mukono. I just thank you for the show. Have a great weekend. Great weekend too. Thank you so much, Karim. Okay. I saw somebody here, yes. Article 92 is misinterpreted. It says that a law cannot be made to charge a person who did what is seen as a crime and taken to court and ruled that there is no law in place used to accuse that person. But it doesn't stop to make a law to use in accusing future criminals of that made law. Kaziba Moses, I implore you, counsel, if you can
guide on
this, because I didn't pick the real message, but if you have, you respond. Kaziba Moses, thank you so much for watching. This is Noomwami Ambrose in Mutungo, and he says, good morning, Mr. Paul and the team. Parliament and politicians are lacking respect for our men and women in uniform, but they are all aware of the good work our fellows are doing too. Doing. Full stop. Too much peace is the only problem of our country, which Mhozi must handle properly. Okay. Norman Ambrose, that is your opinion, and thank you so much for watching. I will hold the messages from here and I return to my panel. Kazoba, Charles, you've heard from the...
I've heard from
from
Doctor
from the learned friend
and
from
Council
the Council of the Radical Nuba, and you've heard from Dr. Werihe. They are saying there are alternative avenues to try civilians who involve in illegal activities related to the military or the army?
Yes.
Why do we insist we empower the military court to try civilians?
The challenge I have for Mr. Apollo is that we are having so many voices who are idealistic.
Idealistic.
They argue idealism. Me, I'm a realist. I don't massage issues. The way the world is how I move with it. Now, our biggest challenge is ideological orientation. For anybody to keep arguing that the military in this country is subordinate to civilians is a very wrong assertion.
Then that means we are under a military
Why are we
dictatorship.
pretending
I
to
have
be there?
no,
Understand.
we are not there.
Yeah.
I have told you my argument is that the military is doing work
Kazoba,
at the same level
you
with the
said you are
civilians.
a realist.
Yes.
If we don't believe in the military being subordinate to civilian authority, then we are in a military dictatorship.
Let me give you an example. The military is in parliament.
Yeah.
Yes, they argue the same laws. The military is in cabinet. They contribute to policy in this country. The military is in government.
Participation is different from what is in the law about being subordinate to civilian authority.
Are you suggesting General Muhoozi and General Kahindo Tafire at internal affairs are not contributing to policy?
They are contributing. That is participation I'm talking about.
So are they not making decisions in politics?
They do.
Exactly, that is my argument. But we are so blind, we keep thinking that the military, as was written
So
in
the military
Constitution,
is not under civilian authority.
it cannot be. The ideological orientation has since
So
changed.
that contravenes what is in our constitution.
You see, the problem is just one. We think the Constitution is cast in stone, that it will never change, it shouldn't change.
If before it changes, it has to be what it is.
Law comes from politics. Politics dictates how government should conduct itself.
Kazova, continue.
Now,
Proceed.
we should appreciate the fact that now the military's position has over time been elevated. The issue is one, we as civilians, if we do not want the military to be in charge of certain aspects of governance, what do? We can persuade the people in charge that, look, we are determined to be efficient in our work. Therefore, if we become efficient, we shall deny military space. But as long as things are the way they are,
Who is in charge of those dysfunctional institutions?
this country is not ruled by one man. We have so many people in charge. We have over 500 men and women
Perhaps
in
you're
parliament.
saying now some parts of some institutions of government are now no longer in charge. I mean, the head of state is no longer in charge.
No, he's in charge, but you see, it also is a problem with us when we are given work to do and we cannot do that work efficiently. Look at the civil service. Really, this country is running down. It's breaking because of the people in civil service. You can't blame all that.
Somebody said this is all about greed for power.
No, it is not greed. The way I look at the issue is that President Museveni and the people in charge have decided to look for a quick way in curing the problem.
It's a quick fix.
It's a quick fix because another person can argue that if indeed there's a problem with the crime, let's deal with crime in two ways. Eliminate corruption from the judicial system, but also invest a lot of resources in intelligence and criminal investigations. Empower those two so that you are able to detect the wrongdoers easily to help this judge and magistrate in dispensing justice. However, the resources are not there.
I'm sorry, but I'll remind you, Kazova, talking about dysfunctional just judicial system, we have witnessed incidents, for instance, the iron sheet scandal. We have seen incidents where powerful government officials are brought to courts. Then eventually, there are orders and they are released.
Orders from who? Because I have not seen those orders. And this is exactly what I'm saying.
You were here during the Gavi
yes.
scandal and the Commonwealth, the Chogam scandal.
Yes. Yeah, but you see, and that is what I'm talking about. At the end of the day, these cases cannot be resolved because of their internal systems. Let me give you an example.
And you say the judiciary is dysfunctional.
Our judiciary in Uganda, compared to the judiciary in Rwanda, the other one is more effective. And you understand why. Because of their system of justice. Here ours is combative. That a case can even be knocked out of court on technical grounds. You probably filed the papers wrongly.
So to cure that, we create another.
No, it is not just a mere creation. It is resolving a matter as quick as possible so that the state does not collapse.
All right. It's a quick fix.
Yes.
I get it. Wanzala, a quick comment on now what he says. With the dysfunctional judicial system, this is why we are doing this, and it is a quick fix.
No, I think, by the way, we have even overhyped the issue of the ability of the UPDF to deliver on so many things, including services. We have seen them fail in agriculture, miserably under Operation Wealth Creation, where we come from. Since it started, if you go to my district and you say, OWC coordinator has done what in this area, people will not show you even a single thing. Because corruption, if it infiltrates society, it also doesn't spare the forces.
Yeah.
We are also seeing projects where they are involved of schools and they crack the next day, built by engineering brigade. We saw last time someone shooting himself, running away.
Oh,
is an unfortunate thing. So, but we cannot pretend that we can solve all our problems by militarizing every aspect of life. What we have to do is to strengthen other institutions. If I have seen a problem usually here, we have had issue of backlog of cases, many times created by delay in appointment of judges, or even you find the Judicial Service Commission recommending the number of judges to be increased, but it takes long to do that. So for me, I don't think the solution is in militarizing every aspect of society. We can strengthen our justice system and we take civilians but even why are we even wasting time in this? The Supreme Court was very clear. Don't take civilians in the court. By the way, we recognize the court martial the way it is, regardless of the name. But we recognize its relevance as a disciplinary court for the UPDF, not for civilians. And we know that there are laws and other systems that can try people for capital offenses like treason, like terrorism and so many others, illegal possession of arms and so many others. So I am not in that category that we should create a quick fix for that.
Let me hear from you. Going for a quick fix now, as Kazova in his realism puts it.
Right. Thank you. Let me first address the issue of someone who said Article 92 is, misinterpreted, and Doctor highlighted. Article 92 is very clear that Parliament shall not pass any law, a subsequent law to alter the decision of court.
What was the decision in this case?
The question for determination was whether it was constitutional to try civilians in military.
Oh, that courts. Was the question.
And the answer is, it is unconstitutional. You cannot try civilians in the,
now
the military courts.
Is enacting
now,
a law.
You cannot enact a law, to alter that decision.
Could I interject
now, maybe,
on this particular matter?
That's why I say I have opinion
Because I wanted
from an
him to answer it
expert.
together.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think you can allow him.
Council, you may also be aware that the definition of a civilian varies. Yes.
Okay.
So there are certain...
In which way? You can expound it. Just
it's not that you only remind a civilian when you've not enrolled in the armed forces. That is not true.
Okay.
You could be a civilian today, but by your actions, you later on upgrade into another status.
By actions?
Yes.
Okay.
I
hope you got it.
Now, I was coming to that. Now, the Supreme Court, in its ruling and trying to go by the international standards, said that can only be in exceptional circumstances. Now, the exceptional circumstances has been defined at the level of the UN human rights, the general comment 22, I think that is 2007. Now, the exceptional circumstances referred to there, the state
under
party,
which a civilian can be tried in a military court?
The state party must demonstrate that at a time, the civilian courts, there was a serious breakdown or a serious situation where the civilian courts are inoperational, that you cannot find a situation, there is no way, there's no process, there's no, the situation is so dire that you cannot have civilian courts. The civilian courts are not working, and it is so urgent. And this points to areas maybe like during armed conflict. The army, there's an armed conflict, there's a situation where court cannot sit, there's an issue that has to be tried.
And you are under martial law.
Now, it is not enough for a state party to attempt now to list down by legislation exceptional circumstances. Now, even what you see in the UPDF amendment bill, what it's talking about,
we see exceptional
is
circumstances.
Is so far away from what is referred to as exceptional circumstances. So much as the Supreme Court says that we have the standard we follow, where exceptional circumstances are defined, you cannot again come as a state party through legislation.
They don't include those exceptional circumstances. Do not include when civilians become militarized in their actions.
The definition there is very clear. It only happens in situations where it is so impossible to have a civil court or to have that person tried in a civil court because of the situation, the ongoing situation. That's why I gave an example of you're in armed conflict. The civilian courts are not working. And by the way, when you go deeper, it is even given a particular period of time. Probably if it's beyond a period of 6 months, then if you're able to restore order, the people are taken to civilian courts. That's the definition of exceptional circumstances. Now, the ones listed, he's mentioning in the amendment bill, the proposed amendment, the state party cannot purport to now come and begin listing that these are exceptional circumstances. And the ones listed are far from what is anticipated, what is expected. Now, when it comes to the, even if you're saying maybe the judiciary is in operation or it is not doing its work, like you said earlier, what is the role of the judiciary and what should the judiciary be doing? We've seen scenarios here where we've had the judiciary give, orders. For example, someone has been granted bail, and even as he's getting out of, the premises, he's rearrested. total disrespect of court orders. We've seen areas of that kind of influence where the separation of powers has been thrown out of the window. If we are having a democratic state, democratic governance,
the Black Mamba incident.
Yes.
it has happened several times.
I think that is what he's saying. That's how even the judiciary gets them. I mean,
no, but you remember the parliament was discussing, is it the coffee bill?
Yeah.
Because when I talk about separation of powers, you saw militants entering parliament and arresting people and beating people. Now, if you say separation of powers, executive should do its part. Legislature should be left to do its part. The judiciary should be left to do its part. But I have scenarios where the judiciary cannot deliver because they have to, if you pass judgment and the executive is not satisfied or happy with the judgment, then they are not going to respect it blatantly. You see where you have an executive saying, do not give bail to people who do A, B, C, D. Yet the provisions of the law are very clear. The judiciary should be independent.
Thank you.
And do its work.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you so much, Kazoba. We need to wind up. We have less than 10 minutes now to close the show.
Could I clarify
wait a minute. Good morning, Sol TV. Please let that guest of yours know that they should not make bad laws just because they are in government. One day, they will be caught up in the mess they created. Since they are too powerful, it's their offsprings plus their future generations that will pay.
This time comes when you are not in power and you have your descendants and children. So you may be subject to the same.
It is Pauline, and he even took a screenshot of the TV confirming that she's watching. I hope Pauline is a lady. Thank you so much. I am an NRM supporter, but we should not set a bad precedent to this country. Oh, that's a serious concerned citizen there. Michelle, that's what I can read from the status, Michelle. We need to wind up now, gentlemen. And the messages on SMS are here. Kaziba is the one who sent the other message I directed to you, and he says what is unconstitutional is what constitution is against, what the constitution is against. But once it is put in the constitution, it becomes constitutional, and the law doesn't stop to make it constitutional. I don't know if you also get the message.
I don't get the message, but what is principally what we need to accept, that in a democratic society, in a constitutional governance like we're having, it's not a military governance. And Kazawa said the reality is we're having a military, governance. We should accept that it should be.
I said,
yes, he's saying it's justified.
I said the military is working side by side.
No, you say the military is no longer under the subordinates.
And the provisions of the constitution are very clear. The military, I could ask a question, who owns the military? The military should serve the people.
We are running out of time. Good morning, host. I am Christopher from Arua. Everything about this bill is evil, and those rushing it have evil hearts. It is clear the 100 million is now working. I am very saddened by the comments by one of your panelists who said General MK would have taken the country yesterday. It is you, Kazoa Moses, who said it. Sebo mwebale kutuyamba naye ne baganda baffe abasirikale babayambe kubanga nabo basibwa awatali kuyambibwa mukasa ekibale. I think that is so good about this whole process, because I think even the people who are in the army, who even do not have the privilege of speaking out, will benefit from some of these amendments, because according to the draft bill, even now they have a bigger window for appealing in case they are convicted. It also introduces healthcare provisions and services for the army and servicemen, and many issues even touching the rights of our servicemen. We must wind up, and I want to hear from you in just 2 minutes, Wanzala. What is at stake now? What can be done? Since the law is before our MPs. What can they do, and what do you expect?
Yeah, the law is still at the committee, within the committees, and I want to say that the entire bill is not bad, but it is being detained by an illegality we are trying to smuggle in to amend a court ruling. But if they can do away with that, and then they stick to the right. By the way, I also saw something vague regarding the dressings, the kaunda suit, because there are so many designs
And
of
the black
kaunda
shoes.
suits nowadays. So if you want to describe the color of the kaunda suit, and someone, you know, it may not serve the purpose. Maybe it needs to be more clarified. The golden brown, is it lemon green, and the blue as preserve of the armed forces. They need to articulate more about that. Introducing welfare, today they have some kind of welfare. I don't know if for only officers, that's health insurance. I see them in Victoria, Nakasero. But if it is blanket intended to improve every soldier's welfare, we support it. And also, honestly, the quality in the court martial has been so bad.
Yes.
So if they create systems for appeal,
Even the judges
to improve
who
of
are
efficiency,
trained lawyers.
yes, because we have had cases where a ruling takes place today, but even just a soldier obtaining that court martial ruling can take months, including people asking for bribery from them, and yet maybe this soldier wants to be reinstated to earn a salary. I struggled with a brother for 2 years while he served his punishment, and the court martial ordered reinstatement. It took over 2 years, and while I was paying school fees for the child. So in such circumstances, I hope those processes can be improved through the bill. But the other section which seeks to tarnish the entire bill, I think the MPs should shun it and do the right thing, because actually if you do it, it's going to be a waste of time anyway, because people will go to court again and it will be struck
It will
off.
take 15 years
Yes,
to have a ruling.
that's the challenge. Then we need to be open and we say, if this is politics to buy time for the benefit of Mr. Kazova, that maybe Mr. Kazova has to take power using the army.
What do you expect in just one sentence? What do you expect from this process? Do you see it being worked on at a supersonic speed and brought to Parliament and passed, or we will have our members, some of our members, we will see a battle in the House? I don't know.
I think we're going to see a battle in the House. I've seen legal brains like Abdu Katuntu and other lawyers trying to advise. There will be a showdown. If it comes to the numbers, they may carry the day, but they will have wasted time, because that very section will go back to court and will be challenged.
Kazova, your final comments in just 1.5 minutes.
First of all, I wanted us to be clear on who is a civilian and who is not a civilian. And this is going to be a very critical
Is that something
debate.
debatable? Because I know
Yes,
I'm a
it
civilian.
is. You see,
Because
let me give you an example, Mr. Paul. If you are an ADF collaborator, do you remain a civilian?
You remain a civilian until
You're
you're
a
proven.
civilian who is
No,
collaborating.
proven
You
by
will have
either courts that
upgraded. You will have upgraded your status.
Me, I think
You
even,
cannot be,
Become
for
a
instance,
I
a collaborator.
I think even Mukuru, before he's convicted, he's still a civilian. That's what I think.
No, he's not.
That he was involved
He's
either in
not.
military activities.
And that is the problem, because in part of the academic world, a civilian, you cannot be a civilian and you are also using arms.
Okay.
But also to help my brother
Our time
here.
is running out.
Yes, my brother here. I've seen so many stakeholders complying that they weren't given sufficient time to. I really would appeal to them that they can still lobby individual members of parliament to represent their views.
But why? why would you really?
There is no time.
Why would you really? I mean, shut out the Uganda Law Society in this matter? Your final comment.
Final comments about three things. What I would advise Parliament and the people in charge, let them follow procedure, the right procedure. While litigating, rather while legislating and making laws, you're making these laws for the people. Listen to the voices of the people. And who are the people? That is how constitutionalism is done, and that's how I should legislate. Now, again, when I talk about respect for rule of law in the country, we've seen serious breakdown. Just before I came here, one of our colleagues, a member, I received a call. One of our lawyers, Abed Nasser, was abducted by drones and, taken away. And we're saying these are, people in charge of power. Why shouldn't you respect the constitution? But then lastly, finally, I'll refer to what the president said while speaking to lawyers in 1987. He said that laws can be a tool of oppression, can be made as a tool of oppression, or a tool of promoting social justice. What we are saying, what would advise the members of parliament who are representing us there is that ensure that the laws you're passing are not laws that are aimed or that are pointing to becoming tools of oppression, but rather tools of promoting social
Thank you
justice.
so much, Anthony Asimwe, the Vice President of the Uganda Law Society, the Radical Nuba. Thank you so much, Kazoba, for your time and submissions. Thank you so much, Dr. Wanzara. It's always a pleasure having you on this show. Thank you so much, our viewers. We have taken the army for granted, so to me, I have no problem with it. That's another final message that came in from our viewers. Let's the discussion continue. You can follow up this discussion and conversations on our YouTube channel, but also on Sol TV Uganda. That is X platform. Look for that link and you can watch the whole show. My name is Prince Apollo. Until next Saturday, the dialoguers will return and also look at other big issues. I say good afternoon to you. God bless you and God bless Uganda.